Hey everybody, this is Taz from Critical Thinking Anarchist here. Apparently today is Blackout Tuesday on Facebook and other places. I'm not entirely sure where. A couple of the websites that I follow have also gone blackout for the day, apparently. Twitter, the people I follow on Twitter anyway, haven't seemed to do that yet. And nobody that's commented on my line has done that as far as I'm aware. But it is an interesting thing, and I wanted to comment on it because it's a form of symbolism, and in Facebook, of course, Facebook loves its symbolism. They've done, the stand with whatever profile pictures for several years now. One of the more famous ones, of course, was with Notre Dame with Paris during the Paris attacks, the Paris bombings. Not necessarily Notre Dame specifically, but of course everybody knows Notre Dame was burned down on that. There's also there's the Blue Lives Matter, the Black Lives Matter, all this fun stuff. So I love symbolism, and to me, a lot of symbolism is hypocritical. And originally I was going to record this episode anyway, and my original working title was Why Symbolism is Stupid. And of course, as I started kind of going through it, I realized, okay, symbolism itself isn't stupid. So I retitled it, Why Symbolism in the Form of Idolatry is Stupid. But then this happened. And we can't just call it symbolism in the form of idolatry. There is a lot of symbolism that is in fact stupid. But even more than that, that's why I've retitled this, Why Symbolism is My Favorite Form of Hypocrisy. I love hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is entertainment in its rawest form, in my opinion. People are hypocritical all the time. And companies are even more hypocritical more of the time. Politics is pretty much all hypocrisy. When you look at politics and when you listen to politicians, they are the definition of say one thing, do another. So I'll go into my script here, and then I'll go into the world at large. So symbolism has been around since the dawn of civilization. Before people could write, they drew. And even writing is a form of symbolism, as the letters are symbols of the sounds we make and the ideas we have. Obviously, communication through symbolism isn't what I'm talking about in this context. When I say symbolism, I mean in the form of belief and worship or holding a symbol to a higher standard. One of my favorite earliest forms of hypocrisy is regarding the Old Testament. When Moses meets God in Exodus, God says to him, I am going to come to you in a dense cloud, so that the people will hear me speaking with you and will always put their trust in you. Later, in Deuteronomy, as well as in the Commandments, God says, You saw no form of any kind the day the Lord spoke to you at Horeb out of the fire. Therefore, watch yourselves very carefully, so that you do not become corrupt and make for yourselves an idol, an image of any shape, whether formed like a man or a woman, etc. Today, Christianity is full of symbols. From the cross to Jesus in various forms to Mary and Joseph, the ichthys fish, and many others. Judaism and Islam also have several symbols, respectively, but Christianity definitely took most of the idols, including an incredible amount from pagan religions as they sought to bring them into the folds of the church. Again, symbolism isn't always a bad thing. In forms of communication, it can be great. Using a symbol can be a covert way of getting a message out. Think one if by land, two if by sea for the ride of Paul Revere. Or semaphore flags used since ancient times and often used in naval situations. Even basic flag colors used by ships to let other ships know their situations. Flags, however, are the biggest form of symbolism outside of religion used today. Most people use them to show their pride and support, usually of their nationality or state, but we often go so far as to have flags of local schools, though those are often called banners out of respect to the state and national flags. Nothing quite tops symbolism of the Stars and Stripes, the flag of the United States of America. Being an American myself, of course, I am proud of my country and wouldn't change how I grew up for anything, as it has shaped who I am today, and I like who I am today. But even as a proud American, the ridiculousness of the symbolism of the American flag isn't lost on me. There are many songs about it, prideful musicians use it as their prop to sell records, inspire patriotism. Models and athletes use representations of it to garner support for merchandise, and marketers love it for advertising their company's Americanness, or how American their companies are. We even grew up pledging allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Granted, the next line is, and to the republic for which it stands, While many adults now argue that the Pledge of Allegiance should be forced into every school every day, and this is why so many children disrespect the current version of the U.S., let me tell you now, and most of you already know, the pledge was a punchline for children. We all took turns saying it as fast as we could, outright mocking it, saying it incredibly slowly, or doing whatever we could to make it more interesting. I'm sure you all remember, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and done. Or, I pledge allegiance. How much longer do we have to keep doing this? And it's almost halfway through, and my God, she's still going. Flag for which it stands. Okay, we're done. We are pledging allegiance to a flag, to a symbol. The idea of the people who wrote the pledge was simple. Don't pledge allegiance to a leader, because if that leader turns out to be a tyrant, you want your allegiance to be on the country. But it's not the country. It's to the republic. But more than that, it's to the flag, the symbol, the idea of the United States of America. And this is why the symbol is stupid. We all have different ideas of what the United States of America is supposed to be. What I think it's supposed to be and what you think it's supposed to be are likely not quite the same. Sure, for most of us, they generally are the same. America is the best nation on earth, the most prosperous and tolerant. We genuinely want the best for everyone who lives here and wish peace and happiness on those who live in the United States. However, for some, that means everybody. For others, that only means United States citizens. For yet others, that means only white United States citizens, or landowners, but a lot of people just aren't landowners anymore, so we'll kind of fudge that one a little bit. There are a lot of caveats in our symbols, and there's the problem with symbolism. They can't all be interpreted the same way. To lead you down a slightly different rabbit hole on this, think of current emojis. The fire emoji is one of the most recent to be used widespread as a good thing. Who knows how it was originally used, if people were using it to say hot or fire or lit. Similar words, but not always the same meaning. Now, however, people see the emoji and translate it as fire, and most of the time means a good thing. That athlete is fire. That song is fire. To older people, it doesn't make sense, as fire is literally meant something burning with flames. Words are already confusing enough, but now that pictures of those words have multiple meanings, those symbols have become more confusing than the words they represent. My point on the symbolism is that people don't take the time to understand why these symbols are there, what they represent, and whether or not those representations are good, bad, right, wrong, or anything else. Symbols are most often used to convey vague ideals that have no set definition and often cause too many problems. And yes, that comes from the guy who created his own symbol based on the anarchy sign, and the hypocrisy isn't lost on me. So that's the end of my script. I want to go into a story on symbolism. I used to have a friend. He was of Italian descent. Born in the United States. I mean, he's probably third or fourth generation United States or whatever. I'm not entirely sure. But he was of Italian descent, and of course, he was Italian Catholic, very Catholic. And by the time I had met him, I believe he had already been married once, and either got it annulled or divorced. I'm not entirely sure how that worked, I met him long after that. He then got married and had a couple of kids, had sex out of wedlock, all that fun stuff, as most people do. But of course, when you use religion as a crutch, when you use it to justify who you are and how you are, you really have to wondering about that. And this is again where symbolism and the religion got me, and a couple other, the religion, the nationality, all of it got me. Because he would often tell me that he never took his wedding ring off. He didn't take it off in the shower. He didn't take it off at work, even if it was, a very physical job and he needed to do things. Like, he never took it off. And he told me that, and he was so proud. He ended up cheating on his wife multiple times, and they ended up getting a divorce. My wife and I don't have that rule. We take our rings off all the time. When I leave the house, I try to have it on me as much as possible, because that is my symbolism. When I'm away from her, that is my symbol to myself of my devotion to her. That is me showing the world, hey, I've got somebody, don't even bother. I do care about my wife, but I don't care what other people think. But I don't want to give anyone a false sense of, hey, who's this guy? And granted, I'm not that good looking. I married above my stature. She is way better than me, and I know it. But this person, like I said, constantly told me how he never took it off, and it was the greatest symbol of love he could give and everything else, and it was all a lie. As far as I know, they almost never see each other anymore. I don't remember who has the kids and anything else. He started going off on weird things, and I just didn't care to be friends with someone who, and I just didn't care to be friends with somebody who lied all that often. So back to this whole thing. The idea behind the symbolism is great. You know, again, there's nothing wrong with symbolism in and of itself. But the problem is too much of symbolism is just that, symbolism. It doesn't go any further. So when people post, you know, their profile picture as black for Blackout Tuesday for Black Lives Matter, you know, I stand in solidarity. Great. How does that help? I've said this before. I've said this before at other times during this. You are doing the literal least thing possible. It doesn't help. To me, it doesn't help the message at all. And I've asked people when they did this for the Paris bombing, like, why? What does it do? How does it help? How does it help the narrative? How does it help the movement? How does it help the revolution? Whatever you want to call it. I don't understand what you think this does. You know, and again, during the Paris bombing, I didn't know anyone from Paris. I didn't know anyone from France. I don't have any friends in France. Nobody from France gives a shit about me as far as I'm aware. So what is the point of me changing my profile to support France? Like, I support France. I think terrorism is bad. I think destroying things is bad. I'm already on that train. So what does it do? There are better ways, in my opinion, to show solidarity. There are charities to give to. There are ways to buy items from those people to help continue their means of living. There are better ways to show that you really care, that you are united. In the case of Black Lives Matter, I don't like the narrative of it, you know, because they keep saying all lives can't matter until Black Lives matter. To me, Black lives have always mattered. Every life has always mattered. I have never thought less of a person because of their skin color. I've worked and been friends with people of every skin color and nation, and I mean, obviously there's like, 170, 160 some, 170 some countries around the world. Obviously, I haven't been friends with a person from every single one of those, but I've been friends with quite a few people who've been descendants of different areas around the world. I've worked alongside them. They've been my customers. They've been my guests. You know, I've sat and had meaningful conversations with them, asked them about their lives, you know, got to know their lives, got to know their family, got to know their children, got to know their friends, helped them buy the right things to improve their homes or secure the right loans. I've worked at a lot of different places throughout my life. I've done a lot of these things, and I've never thought anything just because they're black, just because they're Hmong, just because they're Japanese or Chinese or from the Ukraine or Russia or Czechoslovakia or Pakistan, Israel, anywhere else, wherever they're from. Yes, I have thought less of Wisconsinites, but that's because I'm from Minnesota. To me, it doesn't make sense changing your profile picture. There are smarter and better ways. Now, like the last video, I'm going to include links to help those who have been affected by the destruction of the terrorists in my links. If you really want to help the world, if you really want to make sure that Black Lives Matter, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, befriend people of color, learn who they are, patronize their businesses if they're still up, you know, buy from them. And then the last form of symbolism that I'm going to get into is the companies that have decided they need to show solidarity with everybody. And there have been a lot of great videos on this, as well as examples of the hypocrisy on Twitter. And I'll show some of them in the video here. But I just want to call out a few different people on calling these out. HoegLaw did a great one. HeelsVsBabyface has done a great one. I believe Yellow Flash, Ryan Cannell. I'm sure Nerdrotics did. I mean, there's a ton of them on YouTube that you can go check out, and they're fantastic. Everybody from Disney to Sony to Naughty Dog to all this. Let's just put it out there. 99.9999, very, very few, at least large businesses, actually care about any of these movements. They'll throw some money at it to get the PR. They'll throw up their little black and white picture that says we are in support and unity. Blah, blah. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Nobody gives a shit. The few people that do give a shit are easily led automatons, to quote one of my favorite movies. They don't care. They're doing it to show support, but they don't actually support. It is, again, the literal least thing they can do. They're going to do that so that they don't look bad. And unfortunately, it's kind of a snowball effect. Once a couple of large companies do it, everybody feels like they have to do it. Otherwise, people are going to start calling them out like, well, why don't you support blah, blah, blah? Like, well, we do. We just don't feel we need to fucking show it in the media. Well, obviously you don't because you didn't support it in the media. All right, well, we're going to support it in the media. And then, of course, you got the rest of us calling them out for being hypocrites, because if they really cared, they would simply do it. They lead by example. Don't show it by your stupid sign. Just do it. Just be that company. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you give it a like, share, and subscribe. Check my channel later for more content, and I will talk to you soon.